I'd love to introduce our next conversation, Dismantling the Barriers Faced by Black Women in Leadership, with Cheryl Walton, Senior Manager at Enterprise Service Desk and Asset Management at Autodesk. So Cheryl Walton has worked in the tech industry for 20 plus years. She's a senior manager for a digital enterprise service group, leading global teams who support the organization with enterprise applications, cloud services, AI tools, and SaaS solutions. She also partners with other organizations such as Tech Women, the Hidden Genius Project, Girls Who Code, Black Girls Who Code, Spark, Year Up, and DreamWorks, to name a few. In her role, she proudly helps people grow both personally and professionally, and she is industrious in encouraging those interested in STEM and or youth engagement to make a difference in their communities. And she'll be joined by our very own Andrea, who is the content delivery specialist at Power to Fly. So I'll pass the mic to you all. Thank you so much in advance.
Thank you, Mariella. Thank you so much. Hi, everyone. Welcome, Cheryl. We're absolutely pleased to have you here with us today. And I am personally super excited as this topic is very dear to my heart. So let's get started. Tell us more about you, where you're based, about your career journey so far.
So I'm based out of the San Francisco area. I live in the East Bay. I've been on this journey for a little over 20 years. I started out as a coder, programmer. I didn't like it. I moved more towards the technical aspects in terms of understanding how all the pieces fit together to drive and bring like different automations. At the time, it was more whether or not it was a Windows or a Mac. But my primary goal, I think my purpose in life is to be able to pass things forward, bring people along. I love the technical industry, but I know what I'm here for. And so that's what I thrive for all the time on a regular basis.
That's great. So let's start with the most basic question to have a broader understanding of the topic, right? So what are some of the barriers and prejudices that hold back Black women from fulfilling successful leadership roles?
So my beliefs are the general expectations are that we should conform to the white behavioral norms. And if we don't, we're excluded often. I also believe that we don't receive a fair shake of available opportunities. For example, if someone is promoted, you don't know that they're being promoted and that a position was open, but it was available and the person next to you got promoted. I do believe that the barriers and the prejudice, they're just there. Despite being successful in a position, others are still considered to be more competent than we as Black women or women. And despite our innovation, despite our success or high performance, we're still not considered. And that is still a barrier reaping with prejudice. I do believe that there's disingenuous recruiting practices. So there is no commitment for social equity, for people that really don't know who we are as a person or as a culture. And it's likely that oftentimes they're meeting a quota as it relates to diversity. So I believe when you look at the makeup of recruiters and organizations, what do you see? Like they don't look like us, and there's no incentive for them to engage with us because there's no one on the inside fighting to push, or to get rid of the inequities. I think organizations must do better with that, and they need to incorporate more diversity. They need to reduce the biases in hiring and train the recruiters so they will itemize returns. We shouldn't be put to the left because our name is Shakira and not Catherine. So I really think that we need to work on that as a whole. Those barriers have to come down in order for us to be good leaders in the industries.
Absolutely. And that when we speak of Black women in particular, like the disparity and discrimination that keeps us from progressing in workplaces is a case of dual marginalization. So how do you propose that we dismantle both the barriers that have inferiorized us for being Black and a woman?
So there really is no simple alternative or solution. I believe that we all have to work together and in unison as humans. And what I'd like to say is that what the organizations and the worlds need to operate differently than we did or have done historically. We absolutely have to increase the awareness amongst our leadership, which in turn should decrease the pockets of discrimination that we still often see. And they also need to create the initiatives that target Black women or minorities in this journey to break down the barriers. Like We can't do it by ourselves. Our leadership has to lean into the Black woman's experiences and move us into the reality of leadership and not just a symbol of leadership. We're not just a symbol. We're on our grind. We're doing the work just like everyone else. We're intelligent. We're smart. We're innovative. We need to get those opportunities, and the doors have to open for us.
Yeah, absolutely. Do you think it could also be a matter of allyship? Do you see how allyship could benefit us in a way?
I can, but I think what we need to do is we need to openly discuss and ask the questions why we have not been promoted, why the
Yeah.
responsibilities we are receiving always seem to be challenging. And we, and, I think what a lot of people don't understand in organization as well is that we as Black women, we operate at the intersection of marginalized positions and being trampled on one way or the other. Either there's a gap in the pay, or we're not aligned with our counterparts significantly so that we can be promoted and we can lead the way that we know how. We have to begin where they are, and we have to stop being behind our counterparts. We always seem to come from behind. We need to be on the same level in alignment with them as it relates to leadership.
Absolutely. And to what extent have we been able to dismantle the barriers of racial and gender inequity within the last 5 years?
So I think with the help of affirmative action and equal opportunity laws, it's kind of pushed a positive change, although in some areas, it's minimal, but in the last 2 years, we have had some movement. It hasn't been excessive, but I'm thinking that it'll grow a little bit more because we still need a lot more Black women in many corporations, and we're just not heard. We're still experiencing the same exclusions from the higher positions, despite our intelligence and many talents coupled with we have high level degrees. So it's not moving as quickly as I think it should. But I think if we educate people more, it'll help. I think the lack of fundamental understandings and the importance of racial and inequities, people will now get it. We need to discuss that. We need to talk about it openly, honestly. Organizations can rise and fall based on perceptions, right? And so if there's no change in the practices, how can we attempt to be inclusive? 5 years, not a whole lot. Last couple of years, yeah, I believe there's been some change, but there's just still clear disparities. I do see that. So we have to work on removing the cultural norms that are often at odds with a Black woman's social identity. Like, I don't want to hear angry Black women again, right? I don't want to hear that. We can be pleasant, and we are pleasant. We don't have an attitude. We work hard. We want the opportunities to open up for us just like they do for everyone else.
100%. And would you say that in the wake of a global pandemic, some new barriers have additionally popped up to the existing ones?
Yeah, I absolutely think so.
And what do you
Um,
think are some of the new set of challenges faced by
so
women today?
I believe we are still not able to be our authentic selves. Like, we still get put in timeout for that. I also think that there's still that think leader, think male mentality, which can influence the decisions of whether or not we as Black women will get to lead. We still grapple with that. And then there's also that pockets of denial from the organizations. There is a problem. There is a problem, and it's not being addressed. And I think those things have absolutely come to the forefront during the pandemic because we are working more, we are communicating more and more openly. Changes are being made that we either are a part of or we just don't know about. And that started happening with the pandemic. So we still have those barriers that we still need to break down.
Yeah, absolutely. And from your experience, what suggestions do you have for Black women aspiring to step into public leadership and serve their communities?
So if there's an opportunity that interests you, and even if it may not be something that you're aligned with or you haven't done in the past, don't be hesitant to talk to someone about it. Don't talk yourself out of it. Don't talk yourself out of applying for a position that you may not think you'll get. Get out of your own way. Oftentimes we get in our own way and we regret it later as it relates to an organization. As far as the community, we should definitely move towards serving our community in every way possible. Some of our best partnerships will come from watching the news based on things that are available to us in our community and what is going on in the world. Like I've connected with colleagues who share similar interests. I've talked to neighbors, anything that I'm a part of, because it's so worth your time. And again, you get to pay it forward, whether it's close to home, communities, or places that may cost you a little bit extra time or gas to get there. Do it because the benefits are great. Whoever you connect with or partner with, they'll be grateful that you did, and you'll feel 100% better once you do. Like you feel like $1,000,000. Like I feel my best when I'm paying it forward. I just love that. It's priceless.
Yes. And it's funny because I just joined another conversation in the summit today. And I think someone mentioned that a woman sometimes, especially a Black woman, if they apply for a job and there are like 4 like specific certifications that they're expected to have, they have 3 and they feel a little bit hesitant, while a man, he has 1 and he feels completely confident, like, oh, I have 1 of them, I'm definitely going to apply. And we, on the other hand, we're like, oh yeah, but I don't have that one. And we feel a little bit like uncomfortable and unsure. So do you think that we should, like the best way to go, like the best advice would be apply and see where it leads you?
Absolutely. Absolutely. You have to get out of your own head. Like I always call that the alternate ego. Don't let your alternate ego talk you out of something that could be a blessing for you. You cannot do that. Even if you have 1 out of the 5, apply. 0 out of the 5, apply. You never know. The person that you interview with may be so interested in you as a person that your experiences may not even matter because they're more than happy to train you because they feel good about who you are as a person. You have to get out of your own way. Like you have to. I would never not apply for a position because I think the person next to me is better. I'm going to always going and think I'm going to get it. That may not be the case, you know, but I'm still going to apply.
I love that. I love that energy. And well, that's when we're applying. And then most of the times we get the job. And then we start with that imposter syndrome. Like, am I even qualified? Maybe I should have had the certification. Look at me now, I'm here and I don't know what I'm doing. I wonder if they know that I don't know what I'm doing. So do you have any advice for everyone who may be suffering or dealing with imposter syndrome, or anything that you think we could do to like help cope with that and get those negative thoughts out of our minds?
Yeah. So if you don't have a mentor, just in general, or sponsorship, it's very important to get that. I think I was able to move around or I didn't have the imposter syndrome because I had people around me that would help to validate what it
Mhm.
is that I was doing. They provided guidance, they provided suggestions. A good mentor or sponsor will always support and believe in the issues, whether it's inequalities, whether it's denials, whether you just need someone to talk to so that you can be more, um, you can do better with networking, you have better professional development. You can never go wrong with a mentor. Like that is like a priority. I wasn't, I think I said this last year in another conversation where I didn't have mentorship when I was growing up. I was just told what I needed to do and when I needed to do it. But I can honestly say without a mentor, you really don't have an opportunity to determine all the developmental opportunities that might be available to you, whether it's externally or internally. You need to talk to someone that can help you, someone that believes in you, someone that will promote you, someone that can validate what it is that you want to do, where you want to go, what your experiences are. You got to have that. If you don't have that, what do? You work yourself right out of a position. You work yourself right out of a promotion because you don't believe in your own abilities. Mentorship, sponsorship, definitely the way to go.
Absolutely. And when you say mentorship, do you think that should come from an ERG, or should that be like a separate initiative? Do you think it has more value if it comes from an employee resource group?
I think it comes from all of the above, right? You don't have to have one. You should have different people that you believe in, that you communicate with, that they believe in you, whether it comes from an ERG, whether it comes from a family member, whether it comes from a person that you report to. And for me, my mentor was someone that I reported to many years ago.
Mhm.
You want someone that's going to be able to help you and make suggestions for you and guide you. You don't want to just pick, oh, well, this is an ERG, so I'm just going to pick somebody out of that ERG. No, because they may not have the best possible solutions or suggestions for you. So you want to be very selective in who it is that you talk to. You want someone that's going to stand behind you. You don't want someone that's just going to say, "Oh yeah, I think you should do this and that to make sure that your talents are better. Oh, I think you need more visibility." It's way more than that. You got to have somebody that really care about what it is that you are trying to do, and you got to have someone that believes in those things, the inequalities, the inequities, the affirmative action. They have to believe in that, or they're not going to be able to benefit you. You won't get anything from
Yes, and in terms of mentorship, can you share a little bit about how your story was, how the process was, and where it led you with mentorship and sponsorship?
So my mentorship began with the woman that actually hired me and believed in me at Tesoro. And I won't even say her name, but she and I are really good friends to this day. She was the first woman that ever believed in my abilities. She wasn't lacking in the fundamental understandings or importance of women. I don't believe at the time that it was because I was Black. I believe it was because I was a woman and
Mhm.
that we were surrounded by males, and she was a director surrounded by a lot of males. So, of course, there was no one for her to really bring along because there was no one available, but I just happened to be there and I reported to her. And that's how the mentorship started. So I started asking her questions that would help me with social identity. Because again, we are, they believe that we should be a part of that social norm that we're white and here's the culture, and that's not it. And she really understood the norms, what they look like, how they should be, despite us being surrounded by males. She just gave me all of the positive information and the guidance that I needed to keep my relationship with her intact as a mentor and as a friend. And then I left the company based on her guidance. I left the company and I've been moving and shaking ever since. But I still talk to her at
That
least
is
twice a
great.
month. Yeah.
That is a great story. And it's important that mentorship also includes making sure that you're able to fit in as your true self, as your whole self to work, right? Making sure that you have that safe space to bring who you are and not just like force you into like adjusting to a norm or to a culture that is not your own, right?
hmm And I still feel that there's still some issues with that. I still think that we're not able to be our authentic selves. We have to dial it back, or we have to, you know, be selective in how we approach a situation. And oftentimes we're still not included. Like it's a shame if we should be invited to the table and we're not. So we have to drag a folding chair up because we know that we should be there. We shouldn't be left behind. We should be included. We have a lot to bring to the table, and it shouldn't be a struggle for us still to align with our counterparts because, they believe that we're not as intelligent, but we really are.
Yeah, and I think that as Black women, especially in tech, it's not uncommon to be like the only in the room, right? The only woman, the only Black woman, the only Black woman in tech. Do you have any advice for women in this situation? Like, what could they do to make sure that their voice is heard, that they're being taken into account, that they're not being overlooked?
So I think it's about having the conversations, right? How is it that you can work in a location or an organization and you're not asking questions? And being a woman of color in this time of diversity, we're still reminded that nothing worth having comes easily. And it's not going to come as quickly as we would like, but you have to have the conversations. It's going to continue to be hard work. We're still going to have to be persistent, but I think coupled with some faith, anything is possible. You have to have the conversations. You can't be afraid to talk to the person that you're reporting to. You have to be able to ask. A closed mouth doesn't get fed. My grandmother used to tell me that all the time. It's always about the approach. You can't just go in all aggressive about it, but you do have to have the conversation that
Mhm.
is beneficial to the both of you. Come with something to add, right? You add value. Don't be afraid to express how you're adding that value. And don't expect someone to always validate what you're doing. Just be confident and know that you are. But you got to have the conversation.
I love that. I love that. All right. Well, thank you so much for being with us today. It was so wonderful to hear your story and your advice and to learn from you. I really appreciate it. And I know that a lot of folks on the line do too. So is there any way that we could connect with you?
I'm on LinkedIn. Cheryl Walton, that picture that you just saw with the purple. I don't think there's a whole lot of Cheryl Waltons out there. But you can absolutely connect with me on LinkedIn. I don't use social media like talking about it. I just connect because, when I'm partnering with the different organizations, I will hop on social media, but LinkedIn absolutely works for me. You can definitely connect with me there. Some people already have, which is pretty cool. Again, it comes with that networking, right? That's priceless. Network, conversations, transparency, it all works. We definitely want to help each other, and it's always my goal to pay it forward, whether it's professionally or personally.
Absolutely, that is great. That is great to hear. Thank you so much. It's been so insightful. And thank you so much for your time. It's been a pleasure. And Mariela, over to you.
Thank you.
All right. Hello. Thank you both. Thank you so much for that thoughtful conversation. I just want to shout out, I'm just hearing a lot of self-care advice coming from a lot of our speakers today. And I just want to echo that, it is so important to make sure that we have, whether it be within our community or it's, a personal search, to just not give up on that and know that it can fully support, our transition, and just to amplify our voice in general in this space. So thank you so much, Cheryl, for also echoing that sentiment to take care of ourselves first, and then of course to have that ripple effect after. I really appreciate the work that you're doing.